Janine Driver. When did you, and you don't have to give me a pat answer, like I've always been, when did you become the badass that the women in the Awesome Speakers Academy Circle, Janine Driver's Club, we're going to talk about that for a second in a minute.
You recording?
I'm recording over there.
Oh, okay.
When did you... So what I have painted the picture as is this. Janine Driver has published a best-selling book. Janine Driver has been on big-time TV shows, news shows, whatever, guest shows. Janine Driver has people give her lots of money to speak. Janine Driver has been a guest on some really awesome podcasts. And Janine Driver... Did I miss any of this? Oh, and Janine Driver did a TED Talk that has a lot of views. All right. Those are the baubles. Those are the ornaments that people like and want and associate with, success and influence and impact. So what we're going to do here, because this is the origin story of Janine Driver, and this is we assume that there's going to be some measure of little breadcrumbs that can be helpful for people. We're going to assume that this is going to be like the origin story / path, right? Now we're going to dig in the future into how I got, the mechanics of how I published my book, or the down and dirty about how I get podcasts. I know your sister helps you with gigs and stuff, or how I this or how I that. This is more the origin story of how you went from what you were, which is presumably a very smart ATF agent, consultant, or whatever. At some point, you transition into badass on the media circuit. Go.
If I had to go back to what I think is the true linchpin to all this success, one simple thing. And I think I mentioned this briefly when we talked before, which is, and it really, because as you're talking, I've been thinking about it for the last week, which is my mother, when I was 13, when I was 12, I have a sister who's 11 and a sister 5 years younger, so she was baby. My mother said to a friend of hers, I always wanted to go to nursing school. And my mother's friend said, well, why don't you go? She goes, how can I go? I've got a 2-year-old, a blah, 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 an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old. And the woman said, so what? Go nights and weekends. Go summers. Why don't you go? And my mother goes, huh. And she started thinking of it, right? Now, she was a stay-at-home mom, probably smoking butts, drinking tea with all her friends, also stay-at-home moms, smoking butts, drinking tea. And so my mother went to nursing school when she had 3 daughters. And then she graduated with all A's. But this is the linchpin right here. She went and got her master's degree in education. And she was an eternal student, loved learning new things. And today they would call that, what she was taking, they would call it a manifesting class. Back then they would call it probably self-esteem. And so my mother, who was, quite frankly, when I was younger, was not always kind and someone I would look up to. I remember one time I said to my mother, it was at Thanksgiving, and I was doing the dishes, and my mother was not very nice to me. She's like, oh, you're going to cry? You're going to cry? And started, touching my chest. Not pushing me, but oh, did I hurt your feelings? Oh, you're going to cry? And it just was I wanted to take her head and, smash it into the dishes, And I remember I used to go down, I lived in the basement, I'd go down and I was just miserable. Did not like her. But once she went and got her master's degree in this what I would say manifesting today, it changed my whole entire future. And here's why. Every single thing I've done in life, whether I succeeded or I failed, goes back to this core tenement from my mother, which is it's in the Bible, Romans 8:28, which is all things are happening for my greater good. So anytime I would say something negative, I remember in high school, I ran for treasurer or something, and I got a Casio keyboard where you could record your name, and it would loop it, and it's like, Janine for treasurer, Janine for treasurer, Janine, and I did this on a video, and I thought it was so funny, and I failed. And anytime we felt bad about ourselves, my mother called it stinking thinking, and so she would let us complain for a little bit, like 20 seconds, but then we'd have to go literally look in a mirror and say 20 things or 17 things that we love about ourselves. And Saturday Night Live later, after Mom started doing smiley, guy smile, like, people like me, God darn it.
Yeah.
I am popular. And it's so funny, but that right there is the key to every single thing else. And here's why. When I was in college, I did a talent show, stand-up comedy. I lost. But I had a ball losing every step of the way. I never felt broken after I lost. I always felt like that is serving me in some way that I can't see yet. And that I had the courage to stand on stage. I was in front of 2,000 people for the whole entire school. No one else was, there was 20 acts or 25 acts. I did stand-up comedy, something I never did before. They didn't have Google and all that stuff. So I remember I worked at the Career Development Center in college. And I'm fearless because of this. I think these limited beliefs, which we talked about briefly before, if you can get to this core, like just having that from my mother saying that, all things are happening for my greater good. Even Steve Jobs said you can't connect the dots looking forward, you don't connect them looking backwards. I was working at the Career Development Center. I won all these awards because I was fearless. And if you're not worried that failure somehow breaks you, and if you think failure is still pushing you to what's coming next, then you'll try anything. Like, you have nothing to lose. I'm fearless. I am fearless in many regards. I have gone skydiving. I have no interest to do it again. I'll try pretty much anything once. In the Career Development Center, no one was coming to get their resumes done. Did I already tell you this story? Mm-hmm. No one was coming to get their resumes done and to how to answer questions in interviews. They had trained me at the Career Development Center, I think it was a junior, and I could teach you how to kill the interview and write your resume in a powerful way. And I dressed up. I got my college roommate, Kelly Durney, and myself. I ordered clown costumes from a party store, and we dressed up as clowns and walked around campus. I did a little flyer that said, "Stop clowning around. 4 months to graduation. Come on into the Career Development Center to do your resume and start looking for jobs." Many people would not, in their senior year of college or junior year. I was a junior. So junior year of college, to the seniors, say, "Stop clowning around," dressed up as a clown outfit. I had makeup, the big shoes, the nose, the horn. And I got this one crazy friend, Kelly Durney, in Myers-Briggs. We're both ENFPs, which are the creative, fun, crazy people. And that's just the story of my life. And I can give you a million examples of that constantly. And it's funny because I'm not saying that stinking thinking doesn't creep in. Like, I remember, because I've gone up and down in weight in the past, and I remember having stinking thinking many times at events, often when I'm speaking to undercover cops. So undercover cops are putting their lives on the line. They look like gangbangers. They have these goatee beards that braid off their chin, out 6 feet, covered in tattoos, face tattoos. But, they are scary-ass people. Look at this guy, Jay Dobbins. He was my friend, still is. He went undercover in the biker gangs. He's one of the biker gang guys went up to his daughter when she got off the school bus, said, "Hey, your dad's Jay, right? Tell him Big Mike said hi, and I know where you live." And this little, second grader comes home and says, "Dad, some guy, Big Mike, said he knows where he lives." And they had a threat out for his life. They burned his house down. And his wife and kids weren't there. They were somewhere else. And anyway, I tell you all that because when I speak to those guys, those men and women who put their lives on the line and go undercover, I'm like, who the fuck do I think I am? Coming in from the back of the room, being introduced with, someone saying Janine Driver is great. In my head, I think they're going to say, what is this fat girl going to teach me that I don't already know? So that's there. I'm not in denial. I don't think that I'm a perfect person. I get it wrong twice as much as I get it right. Even the stuff I teach, I get it wrong all the time. My kids will call me out. Like, I'll say, that was hard, or that was I had a hard day. My kids will say, "You mean it wasn't an easy day?" Because I'm all about the power of words, and I've taught my kids, you never say this is hard. Change is hard. redesigning your life is hard. No, it's not always easy. Breaking up with someone is not always easy. Getting over a heartache or a loss at work is not always easy. So the embedded command is easy. So, but I'll say hard, and the kids will call me out. Even my neighbor's kids will say, Miss Janine, you said hard. You meant it's not easy. So I get it wrong. I think the key, though, is catching it sooner than later. So for me, with stinking thinking, what I have done, I'll give you a brief example, is when I speak to the gangbangers and I notice my stinking thinking because I'm on the heavy side, say I'm a size 22, 24, like almost 300 pounds, which I was. I was 292 pounds speaking to gangbangers. I'm 5'9", and which is, it's big. And I'm in the back of the room. I feel the stinking thinking, and I go, okay, how do I get the eyes off of me? Because I feel fat, and I am fat, how do I get the eyes off of me? How do I control this room of powerful people put their lives on the line? And I go, I know. So I'm in the back of the room, I'm being introduced. As I walk through the audience, I start calling out the scariest motherfuckers. You with the, MC Hammer hat or MC Hammer gold or whatever. Come with me. And and they don't want to get up. And I'm like, come with me. So I start pulling them up. I pull them on stage. I get 10 of the scariest looking people you'll ever see in your life, and I put them on stage. Instead of me and my fat body going on stage, I stood on the ground in front of the stage with the gangbangers on front, the gangbanger undercover cop looking guys on stage, men and women. And I said to the audience, this is right out of the beginning of the presentation, I said to the audience, I want you to look at these men and women on stage, and I want you to tell me, I'm going to point to each of them, who would you want to do your undercover operation? Knowing nothing about them, just on how they look. Who would you pick to do your undercover operation? And then I pointed to number 1. People applaud. 2, 3. And then inevitably there's one person where the audience goes crazy because he looks like a scary motherfucker, right? Mm-hmm. And then I say, now let's do it again. Which one of these people do you want to babysit your kids? You know nothing about them. You just see what they look like. And they're going to watch your kids for the next hour where you run a couple errands. Who do you pick? Does your answer change? And I did it again. So which one of these people, if you're an undercover, which one of these people do you want to be your supervisor that's going to guide you and teach you, but not make you feel like shit? Like, which one of these? So I did like 2 or 3 questions. And I said, out of everything you put on every single day, the thing that's judged the most is your body language. It's how you stand. It's how you hold yourself. It's some of these guys look scary, but if their hands are in their pockets, and you can't see their thumbs and their fingers, you're going to be like, that guy lacks reassurance. So what are you saying without saying a word? My name is Janine Driver, and I'm here to teach you blah, blah, blah. Round of applause. They go sit down. Now I hit my fat ass on the stage. Mm-hmm. What I have done, Fraser, is I have controlled the scariest people in the room. They did what I told them to do. I made the room laugh. I made the room think, and I've earned their respect. All before they judge my weight. Because I'm on the ground and the attention is here. I'm like a magician looking up here. So I have learned these little tricks that I'll teach the women. You know, what are the tricks that you'll do when you're feeling stinking thinking? You're a human being. That happens. Yeah. So I'll give you one last example. I was speaking to the International Chiefs of Police. And it goes back to knowing my own value. So I'll say to myself, they're not here for me to teach. I'm not here to teach them how to lose weight and be fit. I'm here to teach them how to tell someone's lying or how to stay alive or how to. So I have to identify it and then reprogram it, which I constantly do. So anyway, I'm teaching the International Chiefs of Police. I don't think I've told you the story. And I went through a phase where I was having people stand on a chair. And I did it because in my train-the-trainer class, I had someone stand on a chair, one of the speakers, and I had the whole class of 30 people stand around them, give me a standing ovation just to get some video clips that they could use in a B-roll video. Where they're up high and everyone's around them like, yeah, Fraser, Fraser, Fraser. And if the person's laughing, they're turning around. It just was fun B-roll. So I was speaking to the International Chiefs of Police, so chiefs from around the world. Now, a chief of police is different than a police officer because a chief of police is a politician. Mm-hmm. So they've been good at their job as a cop. They get promoted, but now they're a chief. A chief is a politician. It's not just street work. So some of them can be charming and some of them can be real dicks. So unfortunately, this guy was sitting there and he had his hand in his pocket and his thumb was sticking out. And I call it hooking. And I said to this guy, I would say there was about 1,500 people in the room, maybe. It was a pretty big room. And I said to the guy, maybe 800 to 1,500. I said to the chief, will you do me a favor? Will you stand up? He stands up. I go, now I want you to stand in the chair and show everybody what you were doing with your hand in your pocket so everyone can see if you stand on your chair. He goes, I'm not standing on the chair. Now, I've got a huge problem here. What's my problem?
He's not doing what he's telling him to do.
Then why is that going to impact my performance?
It's your respect.
Yeah, because if I can't get him to do what I want, I'm losing the control of the audience immediately. But if I can get him to do what I want, I'm going to control this whole entire room. So I said, come on, Chief, stand up here. He goes, not happening. I go, hey, everybody, let's cheer the chief on. Everybody, ready? Chief. So I get 1,000 people. Chief. I go, come on, I'll give you a hand. Chief. He is pissed, leaks contempt, the smirk on one side of the face. He's pissed. He stands on the chair, but he's fucking pissed. And he gets up there, he does the thing. I go, that's called hooking. You make a real cute hooker, Chief. Everyone laughs at the expense of the chief. He's pissed. When he gets down off the chair, I know he's pissed. So I got to control him because now he one person pissed in your audience creates a wave. It's contagious because now he's talking. Now he's distracted 3 other people, 6 other people, 10. It's the wave at a baseball game. So this chief sits down and I say to the audience, hey, everybody. It makes me emotional.
She's crying.
I know. I think it makes me emotional because there are moments in my own life that I wish people had the, emotional intelligence, discernment to know when someone is hurting and they just need to be cheered on. I think so many of us are stuck in our own world, and I get it. But when you can pull yourself out and put yourself in someone else's shoes, you can change someone's day. It makes me emotional because I feel like I want more of those people in my life that see it in me. And I'm in a happy state, by the way. I'm not in a sad mood. I'm in oh my God, full of joy. But I think of times where I was, hurting or broken. And like during COVID, sidebar, my ADD. But during COVID, I make money by traveling. Neither of my 2 sisters called me and said, do you need money for groceries? I know you only make money when you do keynotes and COVID has stopped all travel. No one checked in on me. Like the people who have the 9-to-5 jobs that are getting the checks. But I'm the first person to pay for my sister's air conditioning because her daughter I sent $25,000 because her daughter has allergies and said, don't pay me back. I'm happy to help. That's what makes me emotional. So it's not now. It's like those big epic moments in my life. So here's what happened. So the chief is pissed. So I say, hey, everybody, the chief is pissed. He's leaking contempt. He is pissed, and he has every right to be pissed. He didn't volunteer. I picked him out. I don't know what his day is like. He doesn't want to step on the chair. I manipulate him by having you guys all cheer him on. He's pissed. He didn't want to do this. And I said, so I'd like all of you to stand on your chairs and give the chief a standing ovation for being a good sport and doing this so we can all learn. Because today is about us being together and learning from each other. And I had 1,000 people stand on their chairs. All these chiefs from around the world stood on their chairs and gave the chief a standing ovation on the chairs. The chief almost cried with this moment. And he looks at me, and I can see him, emotional. And I whispered, I leaned over and I whispered in his ear, did I turn the tide? Are we good now? Did we turn the tide? And he nodded his head, yes. At the end of that event, that chief came up to me. He waited in line. And I go, oh boy, here we go. And he comes up, people are talking to me, and he comes up and he goes, I want to let you know something. I'm a fucking asshole. I'm an asshole. I've been divorced many times. My department fucking hates my guts. I'm an asshole. And you won me over today. And you read me. You turned it around. And it made me respect you. That you didn't just see it and notice it and move on. That you made me want to listen to what you had to say. And I remember that. It makes me emotional because it goes back to my mother. Is like, really, not only my mother growing, you know, from being really kind of bitchy. Like, I was one of these people, and maybe you're this person. You're not, for sure, because I've never heard you say a bad thing about your parents, other than your father's more attractive than you, and he's old as fuck and has a girlfriend your age. But I was the person when I was a young adult that had the same 6 shitty stories about my mother that I would tell constantly to anyone who would listen. You know, but like, oh, my mother, that story about pushing me, like touching my chest, oh, you gonna cry? I used to tell that story to every person and be like, oh, your mother's amazing. I love your mother. She's so friendly. And I'm like, oh, yeah? Let me tell you this, you know. And I bought a book, and when I worked at the World Trade Center in New York City, I bought a book by Oprah Winfrey's life coach, some dude. And in the book it said, did I tell you this? It said, make a list of all the moments, if you could go back in your life, that you would never change. Like, list 25 moments you would never change. And then it said, now go back and list whatever, 10, 25 moments. If you can go back in time, you would do something differently. Mm-hmm. And I did it. I was in New York City. I had a small studio apartment, 95th and 3rd. It was a studio. I could literally fry an egg while sitting on the toilet. Like, the toilet was 4 inches away from the tiny oven that was a foot wide. Okay. I literally could have been flipping the egg while pooping. Tiny, but it had cathedral ceilings, thank God. And I remember exactly where I was standing in front of my refrigerator and had a cabinet above it where I stored a bunch of stuff, like suitcases, above the refrigerator. And I called my mother, and it was the first time I released all those stories. And I said, hey, Mom, I just read this book by Oprah Winfrey, her life coach. And it said, name 25 things that you would never change, 25 things you would go back and change. You're on both sides of the list. Where would you like to start?
Wow.
Where would you like to start? She said, I'll take the bad news first. And I said, okay. And we talked for 4 hours. Oh. And I said both sides. And these stories I had talked about, I made these stories, you know, the Landmark Forum says life is empty and meaningless. We add the meaning. I added so much storytelling behind. Like, the big story was I had a great therapist. His name was Michael. I've never had a better therapist to this day. I was, like, suicidal for a little bit in high school, in the early college. I just felt like I didn't fit in. My crazy ADHD personality, which no one really knew about ADHD then, you know. Now it's I'm still that same crazy person, but I know my own self-worth, and I'll know. Sometimes I'll leave a party and I'll be like, holy fuck, Janine, you didn't stop talking. And then I'll call the person at the party, you know, like your friend Eric. He was here in tipsy, pretty drunk, I think, and he said something. I said, if you were in a zombie apocalypse, what would you take from the grocery store? And he said, a case of beer. And I go, you're disqualified. That's a dumb fucking answer. And I think I hurt his feelings. He left the circle. We were sitting around the fire pit, and I think I thought I was being funny. Yeah. And I recognized it that night, and the next day I called him and left him. He didn't call me back, but I mean, he writes to me, so I'm assuming he moved on. He probably doesn't even remember it. But anyway, I digress. So I said to my mom, you're on both sides of the list. We went over both sides, and I had this therapist, Michael. And on the negative side was, in college, I was good in college, but when I would come home, I wasn't good. Mm-hmm. Because my mother treated me like the girl that left when I was 18. But in college, I was an orientation leader. I was an RA. I worked with the inner city youth in a IEP special summer program. I won all these awards. I worked for the radio station. Headlines at 5. At 5 in the morning, I would pull international, national, and local news. Headlines at 5 with Janine Driver. Won an award for that. I was so well respected. I was getting all A's, but I would go home to the obnoxious 18-year-old that always fought with my mother, and they treated, so I would regret, it was terrible. I hated it. And I tried strangling myself with my own hands, and I pulled out all my blood vessels in my eyeballs, all popped, all of them. It looked like something you'd see in like a Halloween decorated table for a Halloween party. Yeah, so it's really, I was just broken. And Michael was my saving grace. He had a loft apartment in a building. He had a funky place. He was funny, and he appreciated my personality, and he helped me cope at home, and he gave me tools to be okay at home. And my mother, when I was back at college, I stayed away from my mother because it was a strategy we had. Like, I stayed in my own space. I went up for the dinners, and I did my own thing. And my mother called Michael, and I got a call at school, and Michael was asking me if I was like suicidal, and I was not. I go, no, are you kidding? I had a great trip. I stayed away from my mother. I didn't take the bait when she would try to like be passive aggressive. I said, okay, Mom, got it. And I just went downstairs and I did all the stuff. And he goes, well, your mother wants to know if it would be okay with you if she could see me and have a therapy appointment with me. And I said, sure, whatever. But that wasn't true. I didn't want that. Mm-hmm. I didn't want Michael to see the sweet, loving, 5'2.5", adorable nurse mother that everybody loves. I wanted him to see the monster that I was letting him know she was. I didn't want her to influence how he treated me. And I never saw him again. So I never went back to him because I felt like he was broken because he saw how cute she was. She always dressed nice. She was loving. She was a nurse, for the love of God. She won awards all the time. And so I never went back. So in that book, on the negative side, number one was giving up Michael as my therapist. Was a huge, still to this day, a huge regret that I have. And so now sometimes I try to get, if I say something to appease somebody, or I don't speak up, and the old Janine would just let it ride. But I think I would have subtle resentment for that person. You know, you didn't mean it in a negative way when you were here. And I said, sorry, the house is a disaster. I was sick in bed for 2 days. The kids had food it was just that ketchup. And you're like, oh, you can't even see it with all the clutter. And you didn't mean it in a negative way, but clutter is a negative word. And that night when I went to bed, I'm like, your boy used to say that. And I'm like, I'm going to ask Fraser to not use that word with me again. Because if it happened again, I was afraid my response would be overly reactive when you didn't even have a chance. And you've given me feedback when I was talking out of turn about the kind of women you're attracted to your daughter, and whether I thought, I was saying, I wouldn't be surprised if your dad and mom got back together. Who the fuck am I to say that? I don't know that. I don't know your situation. And that gives her false hope. And you talked to me with such grace, and you confronted it. So it wouldn't happen again. And I told you many, many times I respect you about that you can give hard feedback to your friends in a way that the friendship doesn't end. That's great. I think that for sure, I've told you a million times, Fraser, is a superpower for you. And clearly you've done work along the way or taken Landmark programs, some Landmark Forum and all that, and read shit. We both read self-helpy shit. So I wish that I did not say that to Michael. I try to be better if I say something that is not really what I want, to fix it sooner than later. And at 55, I'm still trying to work on it, you know. It stung even when you said it that moment. And I could have just said, hey, I know you probably don't mean it this way, but I don't like the word clutter. Another word I don't like, and when I'm dating people, I tell them this as soon as they say it, which is take care. So here I am fucking you, snuggling with you, sleeping with you. We're saying I love you. And we're talking for 2 hours, and you leave, you're like, okay, Janine, take care. Take care to me is go fuck yourself. If you are in a relationship with someone, a friend, or an intimate relationship, for me, take care. In my head, I hear, okay, go fuck yourself. Okay, Janine, take care. Okay, go fuck yourself. Mm-hmm. Not, see you later, honey. Yeah. See you later, babe.
Yeah.
So it's just my own kind of meaning that has somehow been attributed. I don't know, probably some guy said it.
It's a weird thing to say to somebody that you're in a relationship with.
Yeah, okay, take care.
Yeah.
All right, take care. It's like, I don't know, I hate it. And people do say it, and they'll say it early on, like the first 3 or 4 months, and I'll say, I don't like that expression. Yeah. For me, I hear it, my brain hears, goes, fuck yourself.
So let me ask you a question about that, not about that precisely, but one of the things, and I want to segue into the Fez thing, but what you're talking about, the chief of police, and so I had the pleasure of going with Janine to one of her events in the past month. Maybe it's back in early November. Janine was speaking at a fairly large, I don't remember how many people, probably
850.
850, okay. very, very big conference for executive assistants to CEOs or executives or whatever. All women, like 99% women. And it was maybe 3 days, and Janine was the keynote on the second day or third day or whatever, second day. And I'd never seen Janine speak before. Now, let me just correct that mildly. I have seen Janine speak before plenty. I have seen, and when I don't mean that I've never seen Janine perform before, because I have seen Janine perform plenty. I don't mean that I've never seen Janine tell stories before, because I've seen Janine tell stories plenty. But I've never seen her run an audience. And the reason I mentioned it, first off, let me just say it was awesome to watch. It was very, very impressive. But secondly, I was talking to somebody yesterday about Janine and about our little circle of awesome women. And I was talking about Janine's keynote speaking. And she was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And I was like, okay. Janine gets paid a lot of money because people, I don't really know why, honestly, why associations feel like they need to have some big keynote speaker, I guess, to justify the event. I don't know. Because I could imagine, I went to one where they had Jay Leno as the, whatever. So it's some version of make it a special thing. And I guarantee you, I don't want to say everybody, but 98% of the people that were in that conference were like, that was amazing, I learned a shit ton, etc. Which is a good thing for a conference, because then presumably you want to go back or whatever. Or you tout it in advance and say, we've got this big baller speaker who's going to be awesome. But I will say that there's a difference between somebody who's got big time credentials, even somebody who's got a great story to tell, and somebody who owns the room. And Janine owned the room. And the story that she's talking about with regards to the chief of police, or that time when you shifted from saying, look at this guy, he thinks he's such a bad guy, it's such an awesome guy, or whatever it is, you learned to be able to pivot. And I just even mean you're a mind reader. Yeah. And that means you're a mind controller. If you can be a mind reader, you can be a mind controller. It's not rocket surgery, right? People like to feel important.
It's a basic human need, significance.
And so if this is not your first rodeo, I mean, God help somebody if it's their first rodeo. Can you imagine going to somebody's first rodeo? All they're saying is, this is my first rodeo, this is my first rodeo, this is my first rodeo. But if you've spoken before, you can know, there's a saying that says, a person's mind can absorb as much as their butt can stand, right? Mm-hmm. They're sitting there, they've been sitting there for a long time, sometimes they need to get up. If you pay attention, you can figure out how to hack people's attention. In the same way, whether it's with 1,800 people in a room or whether it's one person, you can actually do it if you pay attention. And that's kind of what you do, so it makes sense that you would be good at it. But you can be good at it even if it's not body language. All you really have to do is say, what do I know about people? Right. How can I connect with people? How can I not lose people? How can I avoid the wave? All these things you're talking about. But the reason I bring it up is that is something that we should keep an eye on. How to be good at the thing you're doing, right? Mm-hmm. If you're going to write a book, Janine is going to talk about how she got on TV. Mm-hmm. She's going to talk about how she published her book. She's going to talk about how she got her TED Talk and how she's on these awesome big time podcasts and how she gets paid all this money for speaking. You cannot be that good and have all those things happen. Your book nobody knows. I'll tell you right now, people do judge a book by its cover. You might not, the book might not be very good at all.
I made the most amount of money when I was the most fit. I got the most amount of gigs.
I think the idea that you can judge a person by its cover is very important. And it's important to just be aware of what signals you're sending when you are wearing two separate, like I'm pointing myself, when you're wearing two separate shoes, right? When you're wearing your flying squirrels hoodie, or when your teeth are all screwed up or whatever, and decide what signals you're sending. But if you don't know what signals you're sending, then you can't be intentional about it. But my only point is this: Janine is going to help you understand how to get in the door, how to get the gig. And I was thinking about this friend of mine who was saying she wants to be like Janine, basically. And I'm like, then be like Janine. Then own the room. Then master your craft. 2, there's a saying, we talked about this, I think, where the saying is opportunity makes the unprepared person look foolish. Well, we 100% are going to help you unlock your confidence, your fearlessness, and help you go attract opportunities. Be excellent. Master your craft. Get to the point where when you tell, like, Janine and I are both talkers. And I don't know that we're bulletproof. I've watched Janine where I've been like, all right, fucking Janine, land the plane, dude. Land it. I've heard this story a million times. Now, always, without exception, there is somebody in that circle who is looking at Janine like she's God's gift.
Fangirling me.
Fangirling me.
Yeah.
Now,
my mother would be in the back of the room and she'd look at my friend Chris Ulrich and she would go, this story's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We're trying to get on a lunch break, not the wedding story.
Yeah.
She'd do this and wrap up.
And that's something to be aware of. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. Probably always they're a little bit right. But what the mastery is when you can discern it. And when you can be wrong, like you said. I'll tell a story, you're wrong. It's just like doing stand-up. You do a joke, it didn't land. But it should not land for the 5th time or the 10th time. Right. And so that means you got to do the reps. You got to put the work in, right?
Hold on, really quick. Before I left ATF, and I know we'll get into the story, but I just want to tell you.
Back in.
Yeah, please, thank you. It's like 20 degrees. But before I left ATF, I knew I needed to learn and memorize micro expressions. Right? So I'm like, all right. So I sat down. Jojo, Pepper.
It's good radio, Janine. You could have just let me do it. I'm right here.
Sorry, bro.
Right here. You're being recorded, Janine.
I thought you were transcribing it.
What does that mean?
I thought you were going to write this up.
We're going to do both.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah,
I have 2 dogs.
I'll edit out the stuff, but people like to hear the. I want them to hear your emotional crying. And stuff.
Oh yeah.
No, I don't want them to hear the life thing.
Thank you.
All right, go on.
Okay, go. Get away. Go. Lay down, both of you. So, anyway, I knew before I left ATF, I knew I was going to leave. Go, guys, go in the next room. Oh, they want to eat. I knew I was going to leave, so I'm like, I have to memorize the 7 universal emotions. So I mind mapped them. It's how I teach and how I memorize stuff. And I memorized an order, and I did happiness, sadness, because they're like opposite. Fear, surprise are similar. The eyebrows go up in both, and the mouth opens in both. But in fear, they go up and straight across, and I think I got to get straight out of here. In surprise, they go up and get curved, and I think an upside down smile. If I look up at my eyebrows, it's like a surprise party. So I think curved is surprise. The mouth in fear opens, and so in surprise, but in fear it opens and is taut. It engages the jaw, and in surprise it opens and the jaw is relaxed and the mouth is oval. So I'm like happiness, sadness, fear, surprise, and then I call the 3 troublemakers: anger, contempt, and disgust. And so I had to every day. It took me, I would say, probably 6 or 7 days of mind mapping, and then I do a blank mind map and I do it again. What does it look like? What does it mean? Contempt is moral superiority. What is disgust? Disgust is repelling contaminated objects. People's ideas. Out of anger, contempt, and disgust, which is the easiest to overcome? What do you think it is?
Anger.
Anger is the easiest one. Why'd you say that? That's correct.
It's because contempt and disgust are kind of more foundational.
Yeah, it's like internal, right? Yeah. So with anger, with contempt and disgust, you can't overcome them. What you have to do is, if I know you're a contemptuous person, I just stroke your ego. Before my big meeting, I'm going to say, I know half the people you can influence, so I'm going to say, hey, Fraser, before the meeting, can I chat with you? Look at these are the different logos I'm considering. Which one do you like? I'm going to get buy-in from the contemptuous person. So in the meeting, when we're talking about that logo, you're already nodding your head yes, like you're doing now, and the people who follow you. So anyway, the reason I say that is you said you have to prepare.
Yeah.
I'm still constantly, I'm mind mapping right now. Today, I'm finishing my mind map on the scarf model because I'm not an expert at scarf. Excuse me. But I want to become an expert at the scarf model, and that's why every relationship fails. Do you know every relationship fails?
We're not.
No, wait, I'm not saying this, but
Okay.
do you know, this is a one-sentence thing. Do you know why every single relationship fails, whether it's a personal or professional relationship? I'll tell you in one sentence.
Right.
You're either stepping on one of their values or they're stepping on one of your core values. That's it. If you have a relationship that did not work, you either are stepping on one of their core values or they stepped on one of yours. And that's it. We add all this drama and storytelling, but if you go 30,000 feet, we just have to say, what core value might this person have where I somehow pissed them off that I'm not aware of? Because it always goes back to a core value, and vice versa. So I have a niece that's not talking to my sister. Go back. What's the core value? What is my niece? What's her core value that my sister somehow trampled on? And then what do you do? Because now it's been 12 years of not talking.
Wow.
But it's so much drama trying to unpack it. But really, it's easier than you might think. I'm not saying the reconciliation, but I'm saying there's only so many core values.
That makes sense.
There's only so many core values. If you can at least figure that out, then it's like, okay, you're a step closer. You know,
Right. Get them.
No, I'm going to feed them. You